sitting here on the Mexico border. We're heading north.
We put the boat in South Bay, and I mean, that feeling, just how needed this trip was. You know, life you can get very bogged down with all of the different facets of life.
Forget your foregone conclusions. Settle in, settle now. Give up your sweet illusions, 'cause your walls are falling down.
Once we started actually running up the coast and seeing all of the coastline, the entire bay system, you start to see some of the raw beauty and some of the allure and the draw, and you start to understand why there was so much history surrounding the Texas coast. One of the nights we got to camp near Bayou, and literally on that island that we were camping may have been the same island that Pirate Lafitte and his cronies were all hanging out and trying to avoid the naval blockade when they were running from the Navy after Lafitte held Galveston for however long he did and then was on the run with his treasure. And we were literally getting to camp right there in the same spots.
Set up camp pretty early so we would have some time to just wade fish out in front of camp. And one of the cool things about the lower Laguna is there's not a lot of water and you got to be real careful. But what's nice about that is you can wade fish pretty much in any direction you want to go. So we got there, we got settled. In the interest of spacing everybody out, Cotter and I, we took off around the backside of the island we were camping on just to cover some ground. And immediately, once we started moving, we started getting into some black drum.
Going into this trip, we knew that this was a unique and incredible fishery. It is easy to understand why people have fought so hard to protect this resource and to protect the water and the fish that are in it. And you know, we would not have been able to take this trip if it wasn't for guys like you know, the 14 anglers that gathered together in the 70s to start the Gulf Coast Conservation Alliance. And you know, they fought hard to outlaw gill nets and to make trout and redfish a game fish. Human behavior is taking what people have done in the past and what they are doing and building upon that, seeing that, appreciating it, and trying to follow in their steps of seeing what they're saying and what they have done. And along this trip, we have definitely seen and talked about and thought about guys like JT Van Zandt Owen Gaylor and some of these guides who are out on the water every day, and that this resource is literally linked directly to their livelihood, and that they are fighting hard to see it protected.
We realized how we accidentally walked really far from camp, so we turned around and started walking back to camp, and we met up with the rest of them boys and found out that they'd been getting into some decent redfish. And
after a few days running, it had been pretty overcast the first couple days, and we haven't really gotten a sunset. And man, that day we got a proper Texas sunset, and it was one of those things. I mean, we had landed a couple awesome redfish. We were all just sitting there so satisfied, and man, the sun just started setting, and it just felt like we were fishing in heaven.
Underneath the concrete path, is there another way? Is there another way? Come and beat again, I'll breathe again. Whoa. Rising from the dark, I see a light ahead. Away for us, away for us. Oh.
As we move up through the Texas coastal system, we got to watch it change and transition from mangrovey sandy flats to these muddy bottom marsh grass. Different types of birds started showing up. I know we got to get in front of a frigate bird, and man, frigate birds are sweet. But just getting to watch the transition of the Texas coast change and realize how diverse the Texas coast really is, it's pretty cool.
So when you're running a 17.5-foot skiff up the intercoastal waterway for several hours, everybody gets a little hot. And thankfully, we had a merchant marine on board who knew of this thing called the swim call. And it was definitely a joy and pleasure to everyone else to know that it even existed and was allowed on board a marine vessel. And that consisted of pulling up and stopping, attempting to do different types of flips off the poling platform and cooling off.
Let's go. Let's go.
The area of Texas I know the best is south to middle Texas. And so from a logistical standpoint, I kind of planned most of our fishing and most of our lighter days of running in areas that I knew. And unfortunately, we were battered by wind. And then when we weren't being battered by wind, it seemed like we were having issues. Man, we had loop knots fail, leaders break from wind knots. And we just couldn't get equipment to work right.
Another variable of fishing is the equipment and the tackle. And there was a time we ran into a pod of 25, 30 redfish, and I happened to be on the bow, and it's one of those moments where your brain is just trying to take in what you're seeing, and you've been looking for redfish all day, and then you see 30 of them right in front of you, and they're doing their thing.
Good shot, Cotter. Good shot, good shot. Yes, sir!
Hook into them only to have the leader break. At first, you're just completely deflated because of the adrenaline that builds up in the moment and how excited you are and how excited everyone in the boat is. And then you're just deflated for a couple seconds. But then, we started all looking at each other, and then there's just a whole nother feeling of just encouragement and excitement that we just got to see a pod of 30 redfish, healthy and just happy and doing their thing. And that moment will be forever burned into my memory.
While my hips are measured and jump wild, the feeling's amazing. Laser burn is made its way to the neon roads where I roam. Venice Beach, the one I've lately called home. Neon roads where I roam. Venice Beach, the one I've lately called home.
These guys kicked me out of the boat, told me I was bad luck, but I've been walking behind them for a while now, and I have not seen them catch a fish yet, so you tell me. There is nothing that brings humans together like a common goal, a common purpose, and then hardship. It's like the goal and the purpose groups you together, but then the hardship and the trip and the work is the sealant that binds. And I mean, I'd say we've got our fair share of sealant. One of the things about fishing in the bay is that there's a community of fishermen, and there's a reality that boats don't work sometimes, and guys are in new places, and when they're in need and you're the first one there, it seems like it's really a Texas thing, going back to the fact that Tejas means hello friend or hello neighbor, to stop and
We found the right people then.
Guys, I'll pay you to help me.
No, not a cent, not a cent, man.
when we were running through Matagorda, we came across a couple guys who had their bay boat beached on a sandbar, and they were two older gentlemen who weren't going to get the boat off on their own, and so they waved us down, and it took all 5 of us plus the 2 older gentlemen plus some engineering on where to push the boat and looking for the any change in water depth that we could find. But we finally get the boat off. It's in deep enough water. We say our goodbyes. And, it's one of those moments where it definitely takes an hour out of the day that you don't have much time to spare when you're setting up, taking down camp in hours that you want to be fishing already. But it's not something that it's not even a decision to make. I mean, when somebody's in need like that, it's a sacrifice that we would hope somebody would make if we were in their shoes.
We were running the boat anywhere from 40 to 120 miles in a day, and then trying to fish, which, anybody that goes out and even runs 40 miles in a day and fishes the whole day, you know what it does to you in terms of how tired you are. When I realized we weren't going to be able to fish some of the places I had hoped to fish up around Port O'Connor, and I realized we had to get out of there, start running, my heart sank, because I knew any fish from that point, it was almost going to be a little bit of just luck, because we were going into the northern part of Texas, and we had a lot of miles we had to run to get across it, and not a lot of experience. The Turtle Box guys weren't able to make the whole run with us. They made it up to just around San Luis Pass. Is about how far they made it with us, and they had to go. They had other obligations they had to take care of, and when they left, man, I was a little saddened to see them leave, because one, they just brought so much great energy, and I quickly fell in love with them guys and liked hanging out with them. And then 2, it kind of was, it was the first step towards the beginning of the end, and realizing like this trip is going to end.
We just had our last fill up for the day. Got what, 80 more miles, and we hit the border of
80?
Louisiana.
We should have brought a sail.
we got the tent fly.
Yeah.
We set up on the polling platform and sail there.
Best day, best day.
Last day, best day. We burned 13 gallons. We had 2 gallons left. It did not feel like that. But that was kind of close. Kind of got a little too close.
Got it close.
Nah, we got 4 gallons spare.
Living on the edge. Oh yeah, we got some extra.
As long as you don't run out in the middle of a giant
We got
bay
some
with
extra
2-foot
juice.
seas, 3-foot seas.
It's been a tough morning, man. I think we were all pretty beat this morning, but I think we're starting to feel it.
What did Carter do to us?
About to throw on the jams on the old turtle box and get rolling.
Can I put some
Yeah, what you got?
Can I put sunscreen on?
Open road to the sunset sky, and the sunset I believe. It's just a horizon, hanging over the sea. Gonna follow that sunset, oh, set me free. It's just over that horizon. It's just over that horizon, hanging over the sea. Gonna follow that sunset, oh, set me free. It's just over that
Many miles. Good job, Captain Pete.
What a journey. Let's go!
I'm sunburned.
Me too.
Sunburned.
getting to be out there alone in some of the areas and some of the remote places that we got to be, and start to understand why there was so much draw to this place.
All these moments are shared with other people on a trip like this, but to kind of get away and just have a moment for yourself that is just for you, and that's a cool thing. And a trip like this, you don't realize how important moments like that are. Oh, dang it. You're not supposed to cry in these things, are you?
Crying? It was that beautiful.
Shoot, dude, like, I don't know, something about getting out to places that other people aren't getting out to, and resources that feel infinite. I mean, we just crossed it. We did this trip, and it's very finite. I mean, that's the reality of it. It is not an infinite resource, and if we're not careful, we'll lose it.
Cole's running the sunscreen up because if he doesn't apply 7 layers a day, it's gonna turn into a tomato. We don't want that.